Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today, India Tomorrow, the program that interviews families across generations, giving you a chance to look into their lives, hear their stories and revel in their magic. And today I have two very special guests. India's best-known standard player, Leander Paes, and his remarkable father, who's not just been a model and inspiration, but has in a very real sense shaped his career, Vece Paes. Welcome to the program, both of you.
Thanks, Karan.
Thanks. Leander, 2 career Grand Slams, 18 Grand Slam titles, 22 Davis Cup appearances and an Olympic bronze. Are you surprised by your own success, or did you always secretly expect to do as well as this?
I am the most surprised athlete on the planet. I think my dad is the mastermind behind this, and he's the one that wanted his first son to be a champion. I'm not sure whether he picked tennis at that point, but for me, my goal was to emulate my dad.
When you look back on this incredible set of achievements, which brings back happier memories, that first junior Wimbledon when you were just 17, or the French mixed open title this year, when many people thought at nearly 43, you'd never do it?
If I had to pick 3, it was the 1990 Junior Australian Open when I got to the final, because it gave me a belief that I could play on the world stage. The French Open this year was special because at 43, to be the oldest man to win a Grand Slam, it completed my full showcase of Grand Slam wins. The men's career Grand Slam and the mixed doubles career Grand Slam. But the most important, Karan, for me is Atlanta in the summer of 1996.
When you got that Olympic bronze.
I could finally sit on the dining table with my father and feel like I belonged.
But you know, you've got an ambition that you've shared with an interview recently, which I want to question you about. I gather you want to be the person who's won the most Grand Slam mixed doubles. You've already got 10. How many more do you want?
I share the most number of mixed doubles with one of my dearest confidants and friends, Martina Navratilova. And sharing that with her, I would love to honor her by winning it 1 more time or 2 more times. My benchmark is 20. I'm sitting at 18 at the moment. So that's what I play for right now, to honor Navratilova in creating that world record.
Dr. Paes, the amazing thing is, he's had an incredible career in tennis, and yet as a child, it was soccer that he adored, not tennis. And I gather it was a happy accident when a friend of yours, Chirudeep Mukherjee, the tennis player, bought him a racket.
Yeah, Chirudeep and myself were roommates in Sri Lanka India tea social sporting do. And he was anti-football, although being a Bengali. He says your son should play tennis, and he bought, although I refused to buy the tennis racket, he bought the racket and gave it across to me and to give it to Leander. But more importantly, on the whole flight from Colombo to Calcutta, he explained to me how to progress his technical side of his tennis. He said, because tennis is a technical game, he let him train in this methodology over time, and then he recommended Anwar Ali as a coach, and that's where it all started.
But the amazing thing that emerges from this story is that it's a happy accident that laid the foundations for Leander to become the great player he's become. Because if you hadn't met Chirudeep and he hadn't given that racket, Leander might have stayed with soccer.
Yeah, but tennis was then still secondary, because soccer, he was nuts about soccer. At the age of 5, he could do a bicycle kick. Our living room was spotted with football marks all over, so we stopped cleaning up the room.
But I gather once you got the racket, your father says you would spend 3 and 4 hours a day hitting balls against the house walls.
I believe to achieve excellence in anything, you got to be a little eccentric. So I would sleep with my soccer boots. No one could touch them. I would clean them, polish them, and lace them myself. And then when this tennis racket was given to me, Dad put me up against a black wall with a yellow tennis ball and said, I want you to hit forehands and backhands till I come back. I think he forgot about me because he returned about 3.5 hours later.
And you were still doing it?
You were still doing it. That showed the spark of that cussedness. You need to be cussed to be a world champion.
You know, your father talks about cussedness, and it reminds me of the fact that the world knows you for your string of successes. But you've had to battle a lot of fitness problems as well. You suffered from epileptic fits, you've had a rumor of the heart, you've had an abscess in the brain, and the Osgood-Schlatter knee condition. It hasn't been smooth sailing. It's required a lot of grit and determination.
I think I'm God's child, Karan, because I've been so blessed to get over all these obstacles, and I think these were just hurdles for me to challenge myself. And whether it was Oshu Slaughters, where I was in a knee brace for 6 months, it actually gave me 6 months to move from soccer to tennis. Whether it was the murmur in the heart, the irregular heartbeats, when I selected for a junior program in South India, we went to about 100 plus doctors, and every one of them said I will never be a professional athlete. And I remember the first run that my dad and myself did on Marina Beach, I was struggling because we had to run 7 kilometers on the sand, and my heart was playing up. And we met one doctor, and I fell in love with him because he had no shoes on, and on his black and white television screen, he was watching Maradona in the World Cup at that time. And he actually turned to me and says, "Beta, you run as much as you want. The harder you run, the longer you run, the healthier your heart's going to be."
And he was right.
I haven't stopped running.
And in a very real sense, that these moments of adversity have actually translated for you into opportunity to do one better than you were before.
I think in every human being's life, Karan, you get these obstacles that challenge you. What comes to us, we can't control, but what we can control is our reactions to hardships. And for me, I've always prided myself on the skills that my parents have taught me about being a student of life. If I see this obstacle, I will either circumnavigate it, I will dig a tunnel under it, or I will just jump right through it.
But one way or another, he's going to get around the obstacle. Is this cussedness, or is this, as Leander said himself, he's a child blessed by God? Because certainly, to have overcome each of these problems and gone on one better suggests that there's a hand of destiny, a bit like Maradona's hand of God, making sure he's being pushed in the right direction.
See, Leander's got this ability of doing what is necessary rather than doing what he wants to do. So if he gets injured, he takes his time off, goes to the best, gets treated, and then gets back on circuit. It doesn't faze him if he's out of the circuit for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. As currently he's working for his points, so he's playing the circuit, he's playing in the Challenger tournament, picking up points. So that's his ability, which I think is his own response or reaction to his environment. Each of us responds differently to the same stresses.
Absolutely.
And so he has learned how to make the best of a bad situation.
Now you bounced into everyone's lives. When you and Mahesh Bhupathi were a team, you were called the Dream Team. And there's no doubt that of your 8 men's doubles Grand Slam titles, 3 are with him. At the time, people used to say, they're not just partners, they look like friends. Was that part of the secret of the success of that partnership?
We were brothers.
More than friends.
And we basically lived in and out of each other's lives. We shared the same rooms, we had the same conversations, we loved the same music, loved the same movies. Very different in personality, but we created an environment for us, along with our coach Bob Carmichael at the time, along with our trainers Sanjay Singh at the time, Rico Paperno was there. We had a team of guys who were there, but we created an environment for ourselves that my dad taught me how to do, to excel, to achieve excellence.
And you know, the amazing thing is that was one partnership that became successful. Sadly, it broke up. But then Leander's founded a second partnership with Martina Hingis, and it's probably even more successful because they've got a career Grand Slam. And yet the odd thing is, they're both quite old. He's 43, she's 35. What's the secret in your eyes of that second success?
See, she was a champion in her own right.
And he too in his.
And he is a champion in his right. He's probably one of the all-time greats, not probably, he is one of the all-time greats in doubles. And so when you put Martina Hingis or Martina Navratilova also together with him, it became a lethal partnership. You had singles Grand Slam winners as his partner, and he himself.
So that's the secret. 2 great players in the individual rights, when they come together, become unbeatable.
Yes.
The amazing thing, Leander, is that you have an incredible track record of achievement with Czech players. Of your 18 Grand Slam titles, 11 are with Czechs. And let me see if I can remember all of them. 4 with Martina Hingis, 2 with Martina Navratilova, 2 more with Stefan Radenek, 2 more with Lukas Dluhy, and 1 with Martin Dam. What is it about the Czechs that seems to vibe so well with you?
I can see your intellect and research are as good as your fitness, Karan. The Czech athlete is a very rugged athlete, a very hardworking athlete. Most of them have a very dry sense of humor, which is what I love. And at the same time, they're very real. Any human being that works hard and communicates well, I will succeed with them. And with every one of these partners, they've been some of my best partners and some of my best friends through my career.
And they still are great friends?
Still are great friends. Radek Stepanek is in touch with me on a daily basis. We are both older statesmen on the tour, and we keep talking about how we can reinvent ourselves to be better athletes. We talk about fitness regimes, we talk about diet, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about racket equipment.
There's one thing else you can talk about. You've changed the meaning of the phrase checkmate. Checks are definitely your best mates.
Lovely.
Leander says his magnificent moment that he always remembers is Atlanta 1996, when he won that bronze medal and could look you in the eye. Your bronze medal was Munich 1972. And you described yourself once as a flamboyant player. What does flamboyance in hockey amount to?
Well, to put it in perspective, I'll come to the flamboyance later, is that Leander achieved something special when he won the bronze medal at Atlanta, because he showed the way since Yadav in 45 years earlier that we could win at individual sport.
Because we'd only been winning team medals till then.
Hockey medals only. Whereas we had been winning hockey goals all through, so our bronze was not an achievement, it was a demotion. And
is Dad being modest, Leander? He's about to say that his medals are not as good as yours.
No, it is a fact.
This is the loving side of the father who's never going to make it seem that his son has equaled him. The son will always be one better.
You know what's amazing?
There's a tutorial belief that your student has to become better than the teacher.
So you take pride in that?
So I take pride in it, of course.
But tell me about your own flamboyance, because I suspect there's a certain element of the son that has inherited it. But first you say you were a flamboyant player. What does it mean?
I used to play in school as a left-inner, and that means in an attacking position. And at most, we had an outstanding hockey team in Bangalore, at St. Joseph's, Bangalore, and we used to win by 9 goals, 8 goals. Bishop Cotton School was our biggest rival, beat us in cricket. They got us 23 all out. And so when we played them in hockey,
you thrashed them.
We trashed them. We reached up to 19, didn't get to 23.
And the flamboyance was the fact that you were the one scoring the goals.
Scoring the goals, and that was my role. Now, when I went to Calcutta to do my medical studies, I had to balance trying to play for India as well as do my medical studies. So I couldn't be flamboyant anymore. I couldn't be running all over the field. I had to play a control game. And so that's just the emotion.
Whenever he talks about me, he gets teary-eyed.
Yeah.
But I noticed when I see you play that you've inherited his flamboyance. And the great legendary non-playing captain Naresh Kumar once said, Leander is a showman. He needs a stage and he needs an audience. Give him both and he'd win the match. Is that right? Is that something you've inherited from Dad?
I've inherited Dad's passion. As you can see, whether it's when he talks about something, he believes in it so much. When he talks about his family, he gets teary-eyed. My father's passion and his knowledge about sports medicine, apart from being my father, and I love him to bits for that, but just as a professional, I have not met one human being on the planet who has this sports medicine knowledge. And I wouldn't be who I am today without my parents, without my dad's knowledge.
And the passion that you show when you play is a direct gift from Daddy.
Yes. My mom was more athletic. Speed was her forte. So I've kind of inherited that speed, that quick twitch fiber, the reflexes. But my dad's fastidiousness of daily regime, his passion for being the best that he can be, that's what I've tried to pick up there.
We're talking about Leander's unique style of play. The man who actually denied him a silver at Atlanta was Andre Agassi. But in the book that Agassi wrote, this is what he said about Leander. He says, he's a flying, jumping bean, a bundle of hyperkinetic energy. Still, he's never quite learned to hit a tennis ball. After an hour, you feel as if he hasn't hit one ball clearly. And then Agassi adds, but he's beating you soundly. Has Leander got a style that simply befuddles every other player?
You know, Leander had the privilege, being Leander, a friendly type of guy. He used to go to South Club to do his training most often. And he had access to Jaideep Mukherjee, Premjit Lal, Akhtar Ali, all the top coaches. Premjit used to play with him every Thursday for 2 years. Now that's huge access from a top level player. But what the story I'm leading to is Adip Mukherjee, Jaideep's father, would be there every day at Salt Club watching the youngsters play, and he was keeping an eye on Leander. So one day he called me and he said, see Wes, a lot of people are going to say he doesn't have technique, he doesn't have particular tennis skills, and he's erratic, inconsistent. But it is his inconsistency and his erraticism that surprises the opponent, because he's physically very athletic.
It's like a secret weapon.
Yes.
It's something they don't expect. And when the opponent gets it, they don't know what to do.
Sure.
Do you use it often yourself, deliberately?
All the time.
Really?
I try
It's
and
a
keep them off
conscious weapon
balance.
in your hands.
Yes, because I'm not the tallest athlete out there. I'm not the biggest, strongest athlete out there. I'm not the most sound technically. But I use my God gifts that are my speed and my ability to keep them off balance.
Which means that you're actually thinking as you're playing. You're actually saying to
All
yourself,
the
what can I do now to off-put him?
All the time. Always keeping them off balance.
Is it difficult to be thinking and playing at the same time? Because this is not just intuitive thinking, this is strategic thinking.
It's a mix of instinct and strategy. So I always pride myself on my homework. Just as you today, every match that I go into or every challenge I go into, my homework, I pride myself on. It has to be the best in the world. And then from there, I let my instincts take over.
But there was one moment in time, and oddly enough, it was Atlanta 96, when luck was more necessary than homework, because I gather you were in the Centennial Park when the bomb went off, and then when you returned to enter the games village, the gates were shut and the guards wouldn't let you in.
Dad was the calmest right through that whole thing. So we were about 8 benches away, and when the bomb went off, the first thing that Dad looked around and says, is everyone fine? And we were all fine, and when we came together, he goes, Lee, you go back into the village, I'm taking the family home. So I'm
And
like,
he
"No,
was
no."
there, he wasn't there, he'd left, the family had gone.
The family was there with us, and as soon as the bomb took off, Dad got back on the train with the rest of the family and went back to their accommodation, and he had the presence of mind to say, Lee, the gates are going to close, so you got to go in. So I went through the first gate, and they're like, no, the gates are shut. And I'm like, here's my credentials, I got to get in. They're like, no. So I ran down another 50 yards down the track along the gates, and I got in at the second checkpoint.
What would have happened if you hadn't been able to get in?
I don't know, but God's hand was there again.
And probably luck as well, because otherwise I presume you might not have got that Olympic bronze.
A little butterfly, I believe butterflies are angels, they're messengers, and a little butterfly
There's a poet in you.
helped me my
Or a
great,
romantic.
He's still working on butterflies.
He's still working.
my great-great-grandfather was Michael Madhusudhan Dutt, and a rebel poet from Bengal,
Absolutely.
and I guess I got some of that flair, but a little butterfly, she was red, white and blue, very much like the American flag. She came and sat on my tennis racket in the bronze medal match when I lost the first set and was down break point in the second, Karan. And she helped me come back and win that Olympic bronze medal for me. So
This is a true story, not a romantic story.
it's a true story.
Tell me very quickly before I take a break about your 7th Olympics. No one has ever competed in 7 Olympics, you have. But were you disappointed by Rio because you ended crashing out in the first game?
Rio was a tough outing for us. I felt that my forte in the last 2 years has been mixed doubles. I've won 4 mixed doubles titles in the last 14 months.
You prefer
All
playing with women rather than men?
Mixed doubles.
How perceptive.
So basically the Rio Olympics for me was about the mixed doubles, but I didn't get a go at that. So
You were playing in the wrong one. You were very keen that he should take part in Rio. Leander, I believe, had a couple of doubts about it, but you encouraged him and enthused him. Were you disappointed? And is it more disappointing for you when Leander doesn't win a game than it is for him? Because I know he takes it in his stride. He literally walks away with a smile on his face.
No, one thing we've learned is that when he's playing a match, I don't show any emotion because it'll upset his thought process and his rhythm.
But
So
afterwards,
sometimes he asks me, he says, what's happened, you don't care? And I say, no, it's not that. I don't want you to react to my responses or reactions. When he loses, he has my company. We normally go out and then have a chat or we play video games. When he wins, he doesn't need me. He's got enough friends.
When he wins, he goes off on his own.
The uniqueness about my dad is that he'll be the first one by my side as soon as something bad happens. But when I win or when something good's happening, I actually have to invite him to the celebrations.
Because he doesn't want to get in the way.
Yes, yes. He has to grow up he's a different generation, so he has to grow up into his personality.
Leander doesn't realize how lucky he is to have a dad as understanding as you. Let's take a break at that point. When I come back, I want to explore that special relationship that makes you not just father and son, but coach and pupil, and in a very important sense, two friends who really are fond of each other. We'll be back in a moment's time. Stick with us. Welcome back. You're watching India Today, India Tomorrow, and my guest is India's best-known tennis star Leander Paes and his incredible father, Vece Paes. Let's talk about the two of you. Dr. Paes, Rohit Brijnath, in the book he wrote about Leander, says he was conceived at the Munich Olympics. Is that true?
Yeah, fell into my bedroom. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the games shut down for 2 days. And so
that's because of the terror attack.
Because of the terror attack, and the family was there. My ex-wife was there, and so that's where he was conceived. Now,
so you got a little spare time for what I might call an extracurricular activity.
No, we had more than enough spare time because they shut the village down. All the TV sets were taken out, the newspaper were taken out.
But you know, there's a lovely corollary to the story you're telling me, that if the terror attack at Munich hadn't happened, Leander might never have been born.
Sure, sure. I do not know whether to regret it or not regret it.
But this is amazing. He's a child of God and destiny, but also the product of terror.
Huh? You can bet he was such a rascal. He was a terror in himself and he was a young kid.
Now, Leander, both your parents are very accomplished sports people in their own right. Your father is an Olympic hockey bronze medal winner. Your mother was captain of the women's basketball team. Would they have been terribly disappointed if you'd grown up and wanted to be a dentist or an engineer?
That was the beauty of both of them, is that both my elder sisters and myself had a free hand within the guidelines that my parents set out for us to be whatever we wanted to be. And the uniqueness about both mom and dad was that they said, even if you want to be something else, like I took up tennis, not hockey, not basketball, they said, we will learn the discipline that you want to excel in, and we will create the best environment for you.
So whatever you chose for yourself, they would want to learn it as well to be able to help you.
And there goes the student of life.
But what if you hated sports? What if you decided, I want to be a dentist or an engineer or a shop mechanic?
I was very interested in medicine. So Dad had an old Lambretta back in the day, and it was blue and white. And I used to stand in the front when he would actually race around Kolkata on this bike, and I would do his morning medical runs with him. So on Saturday and Sunday we did the morning runs, and on the weekdays we did the evening runs.
So you were preparing a second career just in case the first one never happened.
I love medicine. I love the human body. Because of the human body is so resilient, Karan, and the reason I still play tennis is to actually challenge that human spirit, to challenge the human body and mind. It's an amazing machine we have.
But you know, Dr. Paes, you ensured from a very early age that Leander would be a sportsman. I gather his sports training began when he was literally in the crib. You used to do what are called coordination exercises. What exactly are they?
The East Germans were masters of sports training. They had a program called the Peak Performance Program from 1972. This particular magazine I read, the Span magazine, was brought out by the USIS, and they were emphasizing or pointing out to what the East Germans were doing. What the East Germans said is from the time the child is born, the child is responding to its environment. So you can use the environment to build up coordination and thought processes and skills. So what we had was above his crib, we had it's amateur stuff. I do not know how much worked, but it happened. we had this crib with different colored balls, different color sizes of the balls, and we used to take his hand and hit the ball, and as it would pendulum back, hit it again, and then after about 10 or 15 repetitions, you take your hand off, and the kid would go on with that. Then
So the competitive instinct that he's famous for actually began when he was a little baby, hitting balls with his palm.
Sure, sure. When he started learning to crawl, he used to crawl like that. You know, you have those small little motor cars that are wound up. You put it on, go zh, boom, turn on, zh, boom. This guy used to bang his head against furniture, walls, and not flinch.
Then did you realize, as I hear your father, one thing emerges as an undeniable truth. You really are a complete creation of your dad. He's made sure from the moment you were born that you will be a sportsman. He's trained you. And if he tells that story, the hand that wound you up was clearly his.
I can guarantee that the hand that wound me up was his.
In fact, you once said of your parents, and I'm going to quote you, you said, I grew up idolizing them. I grew up trying to emulate them. They were really your true role models.
They always will be, Karan. I love my parents for being mum and dad. I love them for being my guiding light, the people I aspire to be, the parents that I aspire to be, the friends that they were to my sisters and me, because they were just pure confidants. I have never known my father to ever get angry, not once.
And
No
you can
matter
tell
what.
him whatever you want to.
Anything.
No secrets whatsoever.
So instead of going to confession,
Some
I went to
sensational
him.
stuff.
And
So, in addition to dad, he was a priest as well. Did he forgive?
he never ever held anything against us.
So there was nothing to forgive.
The way that he stood as a pillar to my eldest sister Jackie, to Maria, who lives now in California, the way he stood as a pillar to me, through all three of us kids, through thick and thin, the way he stands there to Juliana, our mom, the way he stands there for my mom, Jennifer. The way my father has been as a human being to the family is just impeccable. I aspire to be the man he is.
In fact, you were more than just what Leander is saying. You also ensured that sports being an expensive hobby or a profession, he had the money and the resources. And it wasn't always easy in those days. I gather you hit a lucky patch when one day your wife was on a plane with Mamta Banerjee, and that led to some of the clearances that were being held up, all being sorted out. Tell me that story.
Julie was flying with Indian Airlines in those days, and she met Mamta. And all said and done, Mamta is a passionate person. So she asked Julie, says, how's my son Leander? And we were having problems with foreign exchange. We were allowed only $750 a year FTS. So she said, okay, ask Doc to see me tomorrow in Delhi. So with Naresh Kumar, we went along. Naresh has been a stalwart in this whole backup for Leander. We went to her room and we said, she was a sports minister at that time. She said, what's your problem? We said, we can't get foreign exchange. Why can't you get foreign exchange? We said, because of the FTS rules. So she phones the foreign secretary and says, come to my room. He comes for a chap. She locks the door, arms akimbo. You're going nowhere until you sign. Yeah.
So the famous Mamta Banerjee wonderful bullying tactic came to your help.
Came to our help.
But if that lucky break on a plane hadn't happened, you could have been struggling to get the foreign exchange, and Leander's coaching and training could have suffered hugely.
Sure, because those days it was illegal to have foreign exchange. So Leander had a lot of sponsorships. He had about 35 to 40 lakhs a year.
But he couldn't convert them into dollars.
Into dollars.
And that's when Mamta stepped in and ensured it happened.
And you get some strange things happen. People you've never met. A guy called Yogi Durlabji, they're emerald merchants from Jaipur. He read in the papers, the Sports Star, that we are having problems with foreign exchange. So he phones at a Davis Cup and says, can you come across to Oberoi? I went across. He says, give me a friend's bank account in New York. He transferred $10,000.
What a lovely story.
Yeah, and we'd never met him.
You know, Leander, you often say, maybe there's a connection between this story and what I'm about to talk about, that playing for India, particularly in the Davis Cup, means a lot more to you. It brings out your passion and your emotion in a way winning Grand Slams doesn't. Does it really matter that much more when you're representing your country than when you're winning these incredible Grand Slam laurels for yourself?
How can it not, Karan? I'm playing for 1.3 billion Indians. I'm playing for my parents who were both playing for the blue jersey. My mom's jersey number was number 5. My dad's jersey number was number 10. I used to iron it for them when I was a little boy. For me,
India, playing for India, winning for India, that sense of old-fashioned patriotism runs very deeply within you.
I bleed blue every single day. Whether I play at Wimbledon, or whether I play in Davis Cup, or whether I was standing on the podium in Atlanta in '96.
Of course, blue is the color of aristocracy as well. So when you say you're blue-blooded, you're also saying you're a king of champions.
Not blue-blooded. I came up the hard way, but at the same time,
but you still bleed blue.
I love playing for the country. I love playing for the people. It's emulating my parents all over again.
But there's something else also that motivates you. You once said, I believe in myself. And there was that incredible match with Goran Ivanisevic in 1995. You were 2-1 down. He was, I think, the Wimbledon losing finalist that year, and his ranking was number 7. Yours was 123. Yet you battled on, and eventually in the 5th set, when you were serving for the match, you had tears in your eyes. Is self-belief what keeps you going even through adversity, even through difficulty, even through pain?
100%. And that day it was actual pain. Any challenge that I've had to overcome, the whole team has come together. My fitness trainer, Dave Herman, has been with me 24 years. Sanjay Singh, my yoga master, masseur, looks after my rackets, traveled with me for 26 years. Bob Carmichael coached me for 11 years, and then Rick Leach coached me for 11 years. My dad's been there with me my whole life. And the whole team that comes together to work on what our dreams are, these are the people that I honor when I play.
So relationships like this are very important to you?
The most important thing in life for me.
But
I can't please everybody, Karan. There are going to be people who look at me in many different ways, perceptions. Especially in this modern day of media and marketing the way it is, I'm not out there to please everybody, and neither am I perfect. But what I look to do is to be the best that I can be and do it the best way I know how. So when I rest my head on my pillow, I'm satisfied with the hard work I've put in.
But there is one area, Dr. Paes, where Leander has never bbeen best and he's never been able to beat you. I gather there's one game where you always win, and that's carom.
Caroms, of course.
He cheats.
He cheats. He cheats.
I like that. I like
That's
that.
your excuse for
Striker
losing.
never touches the 2 lines.
That's
He's
your
always playing
excuse
with
for
his thumb.
losing.
That's my handicap anyway. Julie leaves, when she sees us set up the carom boards, she leaves the room, locks herself in bed and says, you two kill yourself.
He's the hardest loser. He hates to lose. He plays with the board. He
Make
moves
up
things
your
around.
mind. Does he cheat or do you let him win?
Both. No, does he cheat or does he move the board? Both.
Are you sure it's not that you're just not good at doing this? All it takes in carom.
I'll give you an incident, Karan, about him and Tendulkar, and it explains their ethos, both competitive characters. We were doing an ad shoot in Goa, and the 2 families were there, and the first time we are meeting them, and we come up in the mid-morning to do the shoot, and Sachin is crazy about TT. So he tells them, do you play TT? He says, yes. So they start playing TT. Sachin wins the first set, then he said, no, one more set. Leander wins the second set, no, one more set. And they went on, and there was no shoot on day 1.
We kept the whole crew waiting. And I must say, Sachin is not only a very good ping pong player, but he's an excellent tennis player.
But like your dad, does he cheat?
No. He doesn't. That's the master at it.
All my friends who have a good reputation are going to wonder now.
Let's take a break at that point. When I come back, I promise I'm not going to talk about tennis. I'm not going to talk about Leander. I'm going to talk about another subject, but I'm not going to tell you what. I'm going to keep the audience guessing. Join us in a moment's time after the break and find out what the subject will be. Welcome back. You're watching India Today, India Tomorrow, and my guest is Leander Paes, India's greatest tennis player, and his heartwarming father, Vece Paes. As I said at the end of part 2, I'm not going to talk about Leander, I'm not going to talk about tennis. I want to talk about your lives beyond all of that. You've been involved in sports medicine, Dr. Paes, since 1990. You've had a close association with BCCI, and now at the moment, since 2010, your focus is doping education and dope testing. It sounds like a pretty challenging issue to be involved in.
Yeah, it's a huge issue because of the money in sports and the fame and fortune it brings not only the athlete, his family, and also the country. So now you have the curse of doping being run officially by the countries involved because of the money. And
Can I interrupt there? You said in a recent interview to Sportstar that India has a pretty poor record on doping. After Russia and Turkey, we're the third worst country.
In the 2013 census, we are at number 3 in the ranking of doping, and yet we won only 4 medals. Russia at least had 193 cases, and they won 40 medals.
You mean we don't even get the benefit of our wrongdoing?
We don't, because we're very amateurish in the whole process. I think the issues reached a head when the East Europe broke down, and you had all these foreign sports medical teachers and doctors who came to India, to Asia, China, and all this stuff, and they sold their wares there. So we could only afford the third-rate East European sports doctors, and they've introduced doping into our country.
But you're saying two very interesting things there. One, that doping spread around the world when East Europe collapsed, and therefore progressively from the 1990s when this happened, doping became an increasing phenomenon in sport. And the second thing you're saying is that the quality of doping doctors that came our way to India, because we weren't a rich country, were the very worst of the lot available.
Yes, because that's all we could afford. It's an expensive pursuit trying to do doping.
Which is why, even though we have a bad track record on doping, we've got no great benefit from it either.
Not very much. And you could see in the whole Yadav issue that took place, how amateurish NADA was. Where they passed this thing, they got it to the independent review board, they passed it, and then we all knew that WADA was going to throw it out. It was simple as that.
Doping, of course, is a huge concern in any sport. Just after the Olympics, it's a major issue for the newspapers and I imagine for sportsmen themselves. Have you ever in your life been tempted to take drugs to enhance your performance?
He would just wipe the floor with me. The best part of having Dad's knowledge with sports medicine and in the pertinent to the question you ask is that he taught me very young the problems with performance enhancing. He taught me very young about the problems with cheating your age. There were probably about 100 parents that came past him when I was 8, 9, 10 years old and asked him to actually forge my birth certificate to give me another 2 or 3 years to play in the juniors. Which meant that if I, for example, changed 3 years on my age, I would actually be 13, still playing under 10. I would be 18, still playing under 15.
And he put his foot down completely?
He put his foot down, straight down.
It's a 2-year cycle in tennis. So you have the under 8s, under 10s, under 14s, under 16s. So when you're shifting from under 12 to under 14, that first year you get hammered because you're playing against a 14-year-old kid and you're just 12. And then the next year you hammer the young kid who comes down. So when he went to play this tournament with his coach and they came back, and I thought, and I explained to Leander, you're on the phase where you're going to be losing. So just get used to losing. He came back and said he had won. So I asked the coach what happened. He said, no, we played him in the under 12s.
Sadly, despite your father's excellent attitude to doping, doping remains a big problem in sport. And one of the most highly admired, one of the most beautiful tennis players that the world has seen in recent times, Maria Sharapova, got done for it. Now, in her case, she was done for taking something which wasn't a drug when she was taking it, and then she was done for continuing to take it after it had been established it was a drug and banned, but she didn't know. Do you think she's been unfairly treated, or would you say that on an issue like this, the odd collateral damage will happen because the law and morality has to take precedence over the fate of individual players?
I can't speak specifically for Maria because I don't know the exact details of her case, but the onus of any performance enhancing lies upon the athlete. It's our responsibility to have the awareness of what the rules are.
So ignorance is not a defense?
Ignorance is not bliss at all. It can be very punishing, as Maria has found out.
You have these helplines, 24/7 helplines, where you phone in. The Brits have it, the Australians have it, we have it in BCCI. You phone in and you get your instructions whether you should take it or...
But you know, in a recent interview that you gave, you said a very interesting thing. You said if T20 is to be compared to American baseball, and it often is, then A, you need to be testing your players far more frequently. And the second thing you said is we need to perhaps consider moving beyond urine sample testing to blood testing. And I'm sure you're right, but can you quickly explain why do you think we need to go those 2-3 steps further?
See, basically in urine testing that we're doing urine testing and we're doing random testing. That means it's a lucky process whether Leander's name is picked or not picked. So the WADA is trying to push a system called smart testing because drug taking is growing bigger and bigger, the money is bigger, and so it's a problem. It's a huge problem, and WADA feels it's losing control over it. So smart testing means we do target testing. That means if a player plays exceptionally well, we will target him and test him regularly. We do blood testing because 50% of the drugs are only positive in blood, not in urine only. Then we do a thing called biological passport, wherein we take your blood sample and every 6 months we make a graph, overlaying graph, and we see if there's any variation in the graph.
And is blood testing more foolproof than urine testing?
It's combined.
It's combined.
It's combined.
And so what you're saying to Indian sports is that if you really want to be clean and you want to be believed that you're clean, then you have to go in for blood testing, and you have to do it more frequently, and you have to do it with more players.
With more players, and what we call target testing, and also out of competition testing. Most of the drug taking is taking place when they are training, somewhere in California or somewhere in wherever they are.
So whenever they're training, you must make sure you're
we should
checking.
go there and do out of competition
From
testing.
the point of view of an athlete, do you welcome this sort of regime, or do you say it's terribly intrusive into my privacy? I'm constantly going to be tested even when I'm not playing.
I'm a firm believer that we need to keep sport clean. Not just in terms of the records that are being broken, but more importantly for the health of the athlete. You've had several athletes in various sports actually just drop dead on the playing field.
Because of the drugs they're taking?
Because on the practice field and because of the performance enhancing, the different organs start showing effect.
So performance enhancing can actually end up being life endangering.
100%.
They did the census and the Rose Bowl championships 2 years ago from the spectators. We believe that spectators will not come to watch the sport because it's tainted. But actually, the spectators, 70% said no, we would come to watch because of the records that would be created with performance enhancement. That's one. The other one is even more damning. They said if we give you the drug and it guarantees you win a medal, but you'll die after 5 years, will you take the drug? And they said yes.
That's an
incredible?
attitude that has to change.
Isn't that incredible?
It is. But it's also an attitude that has to change, because if athletes say, I'm happy to die in 5 years if I win a medal today, then they're in a sense going to be motivated to take the drug. And if audiences say, I don't care if the athlete is on drugs or not, I want to see medals broken, then again you're going to motivate athletes to take drugs. So attitudes on both sides have to change.
As long as the perks of being a successful champion are so great in terms of endorsements, in terms of trophies, medals, fame, money, hence people who come from less fortunate backgrounds or people who look at the benefits of winning such laurels are always going to stretch the rules to try and have an edge. For me, it's about an education to the level that even now in this modern day and age, it might take 30 years to create a reputation. It takes one blemish
To ruin it forever.
to ruin it forever.
And there's no forgiveness.
Keeping it clean and natural means if in your diet or in your daily lifestyle, you can maximize what this beautiful machine as a body or the mind can do to get the best out of it, then you actually have a great life even post your tennis career.
Absolutely. The great life post your tennis career, let's hope and pray, is still a long way away. You may be 43, But there are 2 more mixed double championships you have to win, and many more laurels for India.
And
by
another
thanks
Olympic.
and an Olympic as well. So there's an 8th Olympic as well. And Leander is shaking his head. Leander is shaking his head. All right.
You see how we got to 7, right?
Yeah. So there will not be an 8th.
We don't know yet.
All right. My thanks to both of you for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Karan.
Karan.
Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed.